Well, we might as well go live now. 4 minutes early. How you guys and girls doing tonight? Just want to pop in and say hello. Hope y'all are doing well. My name is Laney Shaughnessy. If you're new to Spindle TV, I'll be your host for the evening. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Tonight we're going to talk about a toolpath, the Prism carving toolpath. We're going to talk about the chamfer tool and gadgets. We're going to talk about chamfering or doing inside and outside edges with the profile toolpath. But we're also going to talk about the prism carving toolpath and kind of go over a little bit of prism carving for decorative wall art and things like that. So uh, hopefully you'll get something out of this. And then join me next week. Next week, we're going to do some modeling. We're going to jump back into Aspire next week, and we're going to do some modeling. We're going to model some knife handles for a custom knife that I have. I'm going to make some handles for it, and I talked about it a couple weeks ago, and we're going to do that next week. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. Hope all of you are doing well, and got a lot of you in here tonight. Good, good, good. Well, that being that, we're a little early, so we'll let anyone pop in. Let me say some of my hellos. George Planet. George Planet was sitting in queue early today. How you doing, George? And Darwin Bradley, Dennis Robinson, good to see you. James Stewart. Did I pronounce that right? Tell me if I did that right or not. Mike Smith, Tippy Looter, Kevin Wilkerson, Todd Roop, Ken Singleton. How you doing, buddy? Carl. Oh God, I don't want to mess it up, Carl. But Girk. See if I got that one right. John Soutier, Bruce DeGarmo, Stephen Brenneman, Todd. Let's see here. David Krause and Crystal M. How you doing? Kevin Ledbetter, Roger James. How y'all doing? Nice. All right. So hopefully you all are doing well, and hopefully you enjoy or get something out of this. We're going to talk about the Prism carving toolpath. That's a toolpath that doesn't get a whole lot of love. I was checking out videos on YouTube about it, and there's some older Vectric back when it was back in Vectric 4, right? We're in Vectric 10, VGAR, 10 and stuff. And there were some older videos and everything on it, but nothing really new. Thanks, Kevin Wilkerson. Notice my backdrop. How you doing? I'm glad you like it. Yeah, so if you don't notice, I got a new backdrop behind me. It's a bit of a green screen. If I were to come in here and turn off my background, you'll see this is an actual wall that I painted over the weekend, green screen wall. So it allows me to create different environments and things. If I wanted to hang out in the house with you guys, we probably could, even though that's not my house. So it just gives me the opportunity to put some different banners and things up and all in the background. But yeah, appreciate that. Really enjoyed doing that. Kind of give my videos a little bit of a cleaner look instead of that tan wall behind me. And yeah, so thanks. Glad you enjoyed. All right, let's get this ball a rolling here. So we're going to be working in VCarve Pro. Now, the Prism Carving Toolpath is in Desktop Pro or Aspire. We're going to talk about the prism carving techniques, where usually these fall into place and things. And then we're going to also visit similar type of carvings where we're doing chamfering of our letters or our design, and also beveling, beveling our edges and stuff, and which involves the VCarve toolpath. We're even going to sneak over to Aspire and kind of, someone asked a question about having the apex, the height of the points on all of the the design being at the same height. And a lot of times with the prism carving toolpath, it doesn't do that. And you'll see as we get in, and I'm going to show kind of an approach that one could take in the Aspire software and all, and everything. No, Tippy, I don't play the piano. That backdrop was not my house, so there's no piano in the background. That was a make-believe picture there, Tippy. Um, but no, I wish I played an instrument. Then you know, it would kind of help me out in the relationship stage because this ugly face ain't doing nothing. So if I played a guitar or a piano or something, you know, we might be be more attractive. I could sing. I used to sing karaoke, believe it or not. But don't worry, I got a mic in front of me, but I won't sing for you guys and girls. That's one way to lose subscribers quickly. All right, let's get into the Vectric software and let's talk about uh, our setup and let's talk about how, you know, prism carving in general and where that kind of falls into place. And let me see if I can bring up a bit of a reference picture to get us started here. And let's see what we can do here for bum, 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 bum. Here's a pretty cool picture. Let's see if we can. That was not the picture I clicked on. All right, let's I'm going to pull this web page over. So let's see if I can minimize it down to size. Wow, such big letters. I wonder if it'll let me slide. Will it let me slide? Are you going to let me slide, you son of a gun? All right, that'll work. So prism carving, like this T here on the screen, is basically getting that nice pointed, you know, top point, that prism cut point and things. We're going to talk about, you know, the width of our letters, the thickness of our material, and things like that. When it comes to prism carving, generally this is done out of a very thick material with a, you know, a wider angle V-bit in most cases and things. And where we're talking about the apex, the point of, you know, a customer had said, hey, with regards to class tonight, are you going to be talking about the you know, apex and all? Because in most prism carvings, such as this B down here, let me pull it up in a little bit bigger. The apex is going to change, the highest point is going to change based on the size of the vectors and everything. You know, on our wider vectors, our apex is a certain height. On our thinner vectors, it's going to kind of taper down to a lower height and things. And the question is, you know, the prism carving toolpath doesn't really do that very well. Is there a way to, you know, where the apex, all the corners and everything kind of meet the same height? And there's some stipulations and requirements for that that we'll get into, but that's prism carving. And where this really shines is that typically it's large format letters out of thick material that, you know, you would hang on a wall or you would glue them or adhere them. Excuse me for a minute. Excuse me, Lord. You're going. Sorry about that. Where they would be adhered to some kind of backboard for signs and things. They would typically be gilded, you know, like gold gilding or some kind of decorative gilding and stuff to really make them stand out and all. And we're going to look at it in a few contexts, like within a project. You know, maybe we're doing a project with raised letters or something, or we want those kind of prism cut letters and all. Or if we are taking large letters and cutting them out to hang on the wall, live life, love, you know, that kind of thing. You know, so for this, we're going to do a single-sided project and working with kind of a few letters at a time. I'm going to go 20 inches and I'm going to give myself some height. So I'm going to go with an 11.5-inch board here. And I've got the board thickness set to 1.25 inches thick. You know, typically, I mean, you're typically doing these prism carvings, large letters, you know, 24 inch by 24 inch or whatever the case may be in 2.5 inch thick to 3 inch material and all. I'm going to do moderately sized letters in 1.25 inch thick material up to 1.5 inch, but I'll just go 1.25 inch for the time being here. And for this, the letters are going to get cut out. So on my particular setup, I'm going to work from the material or the machine bed. The wasteboard is going to be my Z0 position. And I'll go ahead and work instead of from the center on my jig or on my wasteboard and all, I work from the bottom left corner. So that'll be my XY datum. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into this. And let's get past the setup and all, and I'm going to get rid of the DS for a second, and I'm going to kind of focus on the W here. And let's get this sized up to a relatively good size and get it centered. I'm going to use the alignment tool to get centered up on the material. And when it comes to cutting these out, let's talk about the different areas. We have our profile toolpath. We can do some chamfering on this, and we can do our prism carving. Okay. And yeah, Carl, I hope we don't get a repeat of last week's technical problems either. I appreciate that. Hey, that's why I learned the guitar. That's exactly right. I wish I could learn the guitar. So we're going to look at the different options. Now, one of the options is going to require a gadget, which for Vectric VCarve desktop owners, you don't have access to the gadget library or the Chamfer Gadget and things. So I'm not really going to concentrate on that a lot because I want this to be focused around things that everyone that watches tonight can use. So let's get the Chamfer Gadget out of the way. The Chamfer Gadget is a cool little tool within the Vectric Gadgets library that allows you to chamfer a design, no matter if it's a letter or a a shape or a plaque or whatever. But it gives you the ability to set a start depth and a cut depth, basically where that chamfer is going to start and what it's going to cut down to, and then also you can vary the angles. And everything. So it's in a lot of cases, it's kind of a good way to go. Now it does create that flat depth. It's not going to create that prism carving. So as an example, on the letter W here that I have selected, if I were to say, okay, a 0 start depth with a 1 inch cut depth at a 45-degree angle. Now the chamfer gadget, when it comes to the tools, it doesn't use a V-bit. You're going to either, you notice all my V-bits are not showing in the tool library and everything. It's either going to be an end mill or a ball nose or a tapered ball nose, and the end mill, not a good choice because that's going to create stair steps. And unless your design calls for stair steps and not a smooth, angled cut or chamfered cut, then yeah, go for the end mill, right? But if it's going to require a nice smooth chamfer, then it's going to be a ball nose, whether and again, the ball nose or tapered ball nose, it's going to depend on the tool that you choose, right? Or the size of the letter and all, and what diameter of your ball nose that you're going to use. And the difference between a ball nose and a tapered ball nose, let me get back to my imported here. I don't think I have any tapered showing right now. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have any tapered ball nose. So it's not even showing me my tapered ball noses. So it's kind of like a stringent gadget, right? It's only like it's limiting my tools. So that's okay. I'll go ahead and we'll go with a 1/8 inch ball nose here, not a chamfer or not a I'm getting my tongue tied here. Not a tapered ball nose, but a ball nose. And we'll start at 0, cut down to 1 inch at a 45-degree angle with that tool. And when we click OK, it's going to go right into creating a tool path. And I want you to see these lines where it's going from one place to the other here in those tool paths and all. some of the areas you'll actually notice in these higher areas, again, the apex doesn't reach the same height. They're kind of higher in certain areas and stuff, but the tool actually comes through and cuts. So I'm not a big fan myself of the chamfer tool, within the gadget. So you guys and girls with desktop, you're not really missing out on a whole lot. But let's take a look at this chamfer cut on this letter, and you can kind of see from the blue lines and stuff. We got some weird things going on here, but let's go ahead and let's preview this cut and look at that. Where it zigzags from one place to another. Here, let me do this for time's sake. Let me stop that for a second. I'm going to turn my simulation quality down quite a bit, and so it kind of speeds up the process and all. But as that ball nose bit is crisscrossing back and forth in things, in some of the areas, the bit actually cuts into places that it shouldn't be cutting. So super weird when it does that. But if we look at this, oh, I'm such a goober. Hold on a second. I know what one of my problems is. I got to go into here and put my uh, design at the top of my material. There we go. Let's do that again, and let's recalculate that toolpath. Always check your position in your material, and it will not let me recalculate a chamfer toolpath. That's another thing that kind of a disadvantage. Let's delete that and start over again. Gadgets, chamfer, 0 down to 1 inch, 45 degrees. Recalculate that. Because my design was showing at the bottom of the tool, it was kind of cutting pretty deep. So let's reset that and preview. But again, where that that chamfer cut and everything is going, it's still leaving some flat spots here on the letters at the top and on the two ends here. We'll let that go through. And then we're going to do a profile cut just to cut it out so we can see what in the world it looks like. Profile cut. We're going to cut all the way through our material. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch end mill just for demonstration purposes, but I'd probably use a 1/4 inch most likely, but it's in there, so I'm just going to choose it. This is just for preview purposes only. All right, so if we were to get rid of our waste material, this is what we're kind of left with. And so we're left with these uh, areas here that the bit on the chamfer really didn't get to, these flat areas. And so what it would require me to do, you see the excess material that's at the point of this and stuff on these thin areas. What it would require me to do is to kind of do a pocket cut, a little bit of a pocket cut, and kind of bring that down to one level, try to get right to that point. Now I'm kind of at a guessing game, right? As to where I need to be. And so if I hover my mouse, kind of get as close as I can to that point, that's showing at, 0.9631 for me. So remember, I'm working off the bottom. So out of my 1 1/4 inch material, I'd have to subtract that 0.9631. And so if I were to do a pocket cut on this and I'm going to use a little adage here, T for thickness, right? Minus 0.09. What was my 0961? What was that? 0.996. I'm going to go 961. 0.961. 0.961 equals 0.289. T is for thickness. The software knows how thick my material is. And if I calculate this toolpath to try to create this, pocket cut of some sort to bring these down a little bit, um, you know, Now on my letters, I've successfully got it down to a decent height on here, but in those flats, I have these flats here. So my apex is the same height all the way through. However, I'd like to have nice sharp corners here and here. And, with that chamfer tool, it's just not possible, right? But it still kind of gets the job done if I wanted to go that route, right? So that's kind of option number one, right? Not a good option, but it's great for doing other kind of chamfers and things like that. But when it comes to what we're trying to achieve here on that prism look, really not good in these areas. Now, these areas that are flattened out here that were kind of raised up, when we use the Prism toolpath, we have a little bit of the same problem, except for these legs are one height, then it kind of scoops up a little higher, and then it creates the point up there, and then it comes back down up to this leg and everything. So we kind of end up with high spots here as well with the prism, and so we got to combat that. And we'll get into the only way that I've ever found to create the same kind of consistent height all the way through, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But let's move along. So chamfer toolpath, yeah, okay, but not the best option. All right. Now we come into doing a profile cut with a bit of a chamfer using that profile toolpath, right? So this is kind of option number 2. And the option number 2 is to use a V-bit. So first thing is deciding, okay, how deep I want my, like my bevel. In this case, it's going to be a bevel more than a chamfer, right? How deep I want my bevel to be. And so let's say that I want my bevel to be, let's go with 3/8 of an inch, just for, a number. And on here, I'm going to use a V-bit. Now, the wider angle V-bit that I use, the more of that nice chamfer I'm going to get. The narrower angle, like a 60-degree and all, I'm just going to get a beveled edge. And so we'll look at it two ways. Let's start off with the 60-degree V-bit. We'll start out with a very simple 1/4 inch 60-degree V-bit. And then we'll move to like a 1.25 inch 90-degree here in a second. But let's do a 1/4 inch 60-degree V-bit. And now on that chamfer, I, when I come in here to do my cut and stuff, I want to come down to corners. Now, if you don't see these advanced options in a profile toolpath, that means that you need to check off this box to show advanced options. And then you'll be able to see the ramp, leads, order, start at corners. Now on corners, if I come in here and say that I want inside and outside corners and everything, I got to bring that bit in first and to create the chamfer, because my V-bit's going to be cutting on the outside of the bit, right? Up here, I have it cutting on the outside of the part. So I need to create a bit of an allowance for myself, and it's when I've got my tool selected, and let's come in here and turn that off for a second. When I come in here and I have that tool selected, I've got to kind of step that bit over a bit, so the angle of the V-bit does some cutting. And so in this 60-degree V-bit, right, I'm going to go ahead and just decide to step over, half the diameter. It's so I'm going to step over 1/8 of an inch, and that's going to be a negative number. I want it to step over the line, so it's going to be a negative number. And now when I come in here and say sharp internal corners, sharp external corners, if I calculate this, let's see here, with corner sharpening switched on, cut depth cannot exceed the, okay. Hold on a minute. Right here. This right here is exceeding my cut depth of my tool. So I have to stay within the limits of the cut depth of my tool. So my other tool is going to have a longer cutting flute, and therefore I can get down deeper and all. So I've got to stick within this 0.2188 is the cut depth or the flute length of my 60-degree 1/4 inch V bit. And so therefore, um, I have to kind of abide by that. Now, notice that it's grayed out here for the allowance offset and everything. So let's calculate this and let's see what we what we're looking like here. And if I preview that visible toolpath, I'm going to get this, little chamfer here on the upper edge of my tool. Now, let's go back into that toolpath for a minute and let's look at why things are kind of grayed out. Well, my V-bit, let's go into our tool here, that 1/4 inch V-bit, not going to give me much of a chamfer head on it. So maybe not the appropriate angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch up the V-bit to a 90-degree V-bit. Okay. And I'm going to, I got a little bit more cut depth on that 90 that I can do. And I want to be on the outside of the cut. I need to come in here and turn off the corners here for a second. But I could at this point say, all right, let's do an allowance offset. And if I did an allowance offset and I wanted inside internal corners, these inside corners right here to be sharp, as well as the outside corners and stuff, which I don't really have too many outside corners on here, but if I do that, it's going to give me an offset for my end mill, but it doesn't let me do an offset on the tool. And I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. So if I click calculate, I got to remember this magic number, 0.25. But if I calculate this, let's reset this preview. And I preview that chamfer, that 0.25 offset number that it gave me, that magic number I said, that's how far from the top of my letter to the bottom of that angled cut, that's how far over my end mill needs to be stepped over to do a profile cut to get that beveled edge. And so, okay, create my profile toolpath. I'm going to cut all the way through my material with an end mill. And I'll use my 1/4 inch end mill for that on the outside of the cut. But now I have to come in here and I need to step away from the line. So that's a positive number. Okay, so that 0.25. When I want to go over the line, because I'm cutting on the outside, if I want to go over the line into it, that's a negative number. If I want to go away from the line, that's a positive number. And that's what I need is a positive number. I got to step away by that 1/4 inch. And then I can calculate that toolpath, preview the selected toolpath, and do my profile cut to cut through. Now, I'm not putting tabs or anything in there. We're just kind of going through a little brief explanation. Then we're going to put this into a real world scenario here in a moment. All right, so now with that, what I get is I get a nice looking letter with those chamfered edges. Nice chamfered edges, nice decorative letter, nothing wrong with it at all. The only thing is it's not a prism cut, right? And prism cuts are kind of our main thing we're talking tonight, but I want to just kind of address all the different things that have to do with angles, chamfers, prisms, and all that stuff. Now, before we go in and talking about the prism toolpath, let me answer just a quick couple of questions. Crystal asks, hey, last week, what bit did you end up using for the lithophane? It turned out amazing. For the bare lithophane, which was this guy right here, I did ball nose bit, 32nd inch ball nose bit on 1/2, 30-degree engraving bit with a 3,000 inch tip on the other half. I like the ball nose better. And then on the couples I haven't built the boxes yet for these and all, but the couples cut. Oh, here, hold on a second. It would help if I actually was on the screen. How y'all doing there? The bears. Where's my bears at? My background's going to get fuzzy when I cover my lights up here, but the bears. The one side I used a 32nd inch ball nose. The other side a 30-degree V-bit with a 3/1000 inch tip. I like the ball nose look better. Sorry about my background. And on the couple, that was a 32nd inch ball nose, and I haven't built the boxes for it yet. And I'll show pictures of that. And then on the round toolpath that I'm doing, the 4th axis one on the PVC, that's going to be the 32nd inch ball nose as well. So that's what I ended up using. Thanks for asking that question there, Crystal. Now, Glenn Jones pops up and says 0.115, if I remember correctly, for a 20-degree, 60-degree V-bit. So the 60-degree white side V-bit has a cutting height. Let me see if I can minimize this. Has a cutting height of the flute, the actual flute cutter, 0.2188. But if you calibrate it out and you got 0.115, you maybe, you could be there, but according to the specs and everything, it's 0.2188, somewhere around there. But yeah, either one. Glenn's on it. Glenn's one of my good guys. He knows his stuff. And let's see. Let's get back to this. So I've got my chamfered letter looks great, sexy, nothing wrong with it. I'd hang it on a wall. But notice my 1/4 inch end mill for my profile cut couldn't quite get up into the letters here on the edges. It radiused it out, or it rounded it out because it just couldn't get in there. I could probably get in tighter with an 1/8 inch end mill, but I got to make sure that my bit that I'm using is long enough to cut through the material, thickness that I'm cutting and everything. But still, nothing that a little bit of chisel work can't clean up, and trim away and stuff, get it all nice and nice looking and all. But we end up with that nice chamfer. So that's kind of a chamfer, right? A bevel. Sorry, not chamfer. It's the same thing, I guess. I guess we're calling apples oranges there, but it's a bit of a beveled edge design. Now let's talk about our Prism toolpath, which doesn't get a whole lot of love in the software. It doesn't get a whole lot of attention. Now this is going to be bit based. Okay, so based on the bit, if our prism depth, the depth of that prism, isn't set correctly for the bit, then we could end up with a truncated prism, a flat top, instead of that nice prism point. So once we choose our bit, and in this case, I'm choosing kind of a wide angle bit, right? It's a 1.25 inch diameter 90-degree V-bit. And with that tool chosen, if I click on set prism depth for full prism, then, my full prism depth on this is about 1.2604. Now, my material is about 1.25. I should be okay, but understand that when it does this full prism, it's going to cut the project out, and there's nothing here for tabs or none of that stuff. So be mindful of that. That's why this is kind of designed for thicker material, which would be ideal if I was at, maybe 1 3/8 or 1.5 inch thick material. Give me a little bit of base meat behind it, but I'm going to let it just go ahead and go to its full cut. And I'm going to click calculate. It's going to let me know a warning. Hey, this is going to cut through your material, and I'm very much aware of that. And if we reset this preview and preview the visible toolpath, what's going to happen is it's going to cut this part out, and let's go ahead and do our profile cut. We'll do our profile cut to cut it out. Even though it did cut through, it didn't cut quite all the way through. In some places, there's still some little hangers on, so it won't let me just click on it and delete it. But let's go ahead and do a profile cut, end mill, no step over, none of that stuff. Cutting on the outside of the line. Calculate that out, preview that toolpath. Let that cut that part out. And if we look, get rid of these little scrap pieces of material because I was actually able to, my Prism cut was able to get rid of that. We end up with a full prismed, letter. But when we talk about apex design at the same height all the way along, it's not going to happen, not on this toolpath. Now, the W, where the legs of the W come together, it's going to kind of raise up and start to, prism down to this side. And then it's going to come up and raise up and everything. So we don't have that same height letter. But this is designed to typically be gilded in some way for the, oops, let me get down here. Are you going to let me gild you? Are you? Are you? Oh, wait. I want to do this one. I don't want to do the profile cut. Prism gold. There we go. It's typically designed to be kind of gilded into a decorative, gold or something or whatever, and adhered to another board and create that sign. And we're going to talk about incorporating it into other projects and stuff here in a second. But the question that was posed to me about tonight's class was, hey, are we going to talk about how to get the apex to the same height? The Prism tool path isn't going to do that. So even if, and I'll show you kind of how the only way I've been able to come up with a way to do it, but let's create a letter S here. And come on, there we go. And let's create a letter S, and let's make this inches tall. Stretch it out a little bit. Not that much. And let's get it centered on the board. All right, now, even on this one, where the legs are the same, pretty much the same width all the way around, a little bit more width here than here, but still pretty much consistent on that lettering. If I were to prism carve this, again, I'm going to use a wide angle bit, and my full prism depth is 1.07 in this case. And if I calculate this out, reset my preview and preview that selected toolpath, it's going to start to mill down that prism. And let's get into our profile cut for the letter S here. A lot of wasted materials with that. A lot of wasted materials with doing that and everything. But let's calculate our profile cut. Okay. And of course, with the letter S, our apex is consistent all the way across, right? There's no intersecting objects and things to create a different height level. Just like with the W, we had this leg intersecting with this leg, that leg intersecting with that leg. They both intersected up at the top. And so those intersections caused the prism to kind of raise up to that height where the intersection is and then come down. Well, there's no intersecting lines and things here, so that we can get a full prism with a consistent apex in that route. So what do we do? What do we do when we have, letters that, we want that kind of consistent height and everything? And so far, unless someone from Vectric can tell me differently, I have not found a way in VCarve Desktop or Pro to do it. And then the only way I have been able to find to do it is in a spire, such as this W here, where we have our intersecting lines and all, and creating a chamfer and basically modeling the part. Now this letter W looks ugly. I didn't do any decorative designs or anything with it, little legs coming off here and all. But to get that apex to the consistent height, and everything on a letter where there's intersecting legs, and I could have brought this leg up to here, but this was kind of a picture that the guy showed me of you know, a W. But the only way I've been able to find a consistent way to do that to where it doesn't sweep up at these intersections and all is to actually model the part, and basically drawing the vectors individually, creating a profile based on the prism or chamfer that I want, and then using a single rail sweep to sweep that profile along those vectors, to create that kind of look. And I have not, unfortunately, have not, other than letters that don't have any intersecting lines, like this S or anything, or an I, or, even an H. Let's try an H because an H has an intersecting leg. Let's come in here with the letter H, and we'll even look at a Z and things like that. But let's go with the letter H. And so we have intersections here, okay, here and here. But let's see how it acts when it does a prism carving and all. So let's go with a prism toolpath. This time, again, let's change up the bit. Let's go with a smaller bit. We're going to go with a half-inch angled bit, half-inch head, 90-degree angled bit. And if I click on set full prism, it's going to be about 1.0633 for that full prism cut. And if I calculate this, reset our preview and preview that selected toolpath right here and right here, let's do a profile cut so we can cut it out so we can kind of get a good look at it. And then we're going to make a sign, and we're going to show how we can do some prisms inside of pockets and stuff here in a second. All right, but now if we look at this, where our intersection is on this here and all, we have that raise here in that middle part. We have that raise here in that middle part, where that middle part is riding a little higher than the rest of it. And unfortunately, I have not come across a a better way to or a way to get that same apex height, that point height, consistently, unless it's an object that doesn't have really an intersecting line. It's a straight kind of flowing line, or doing it in Aspire with modeling and all. The question is someone says, James says, can you save that as an STL file? In Aspire, I can, but not in Desktop or Pro. In Aspire, I could. Now, the thing of it is it's not a bad, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a bad looking design in itself, but um, or it's not bad, too bad where these intersections are, but it's kind of based on different angles. Okay. So if I had these two legs running square across, and then I had a leg running here that had a different angle height, then it would blend right in to the edges here, and it wouldn't raise up to that peak there, and all. And it's the Prism toolpath. There's no, like, within that Prism toolpath, there's no fix for it or anything. And I'm harping on this Prism, this Apex height, because somebody asked me about it. But there's no, like, make Apex consistent, or this or that. Now, could we use offsets? Could we use offsets in a way to create almost a chamfer out on our letters, kind of based on a uh, center line, or things like that? Now, The Prism Carve toolpath, I believe it requires a closed vector. I'm going to test that theory right now. If I came in here and did a single line, come on, buddy, a single line text of the letter H, I don't believe the toolpath is going to calculate a toolpath on it. It's open vectors. It's got a closed vector, so it's got to be a real true type font, or a closed. It can't be single line font. But within a Spire, you can do a single line font like this and create consistent height. Example of that being, if I deleted this and I came into drawing, I'm in a Spire now. Text. Come over here to the letter H. And now give it a an angle, right? I've got to be able to give it the angle and all. So if I come in here and say, okay, let's do 45 degrees, spacebar. And now we have that profile. I'm able to go into the modeling tools on that single row sweep. And this font, it's open. I can still use it as a drive rail. So notice my rail's running this way and back and forth. So let's select this. Sharp corners, sweep it between the spans. There is no spans to sweep between. Let's click apply. And merge. Now notice it only created this one because it's the way the font was drawn. So I actually got to come in here and fix that real quick because my lines are not truly lines. Let's go into here and convert it to curves. And what I'm talking about is if I were to move this out of the way, you can see there's two lines crossing each other, right? So it's not gonna, those overlapping lines, it's not gonna let me do. So I got to kind of freehand it. Let's come in here and go 1, 2, space bar. Let's take this, hold down the control key, drag it over to here. We'll do a small letter H. And then we'll do a line. We'll grab it somewhere, I don't know, right in the middle. From there to there, space bar. And let's get rid of that model that did not create because of those overlapping lines of that font. Now, if I select these and I use the single rail sweep, those are my drive rails. All my arrows are pointing kind of consistently, they're not back and forth and all. And now I can come in to here and click apply, and it will create the entire model. And if we come in here and look, you see how they blend into one another, and the apex peaks are at the the height and everything. And so as far as that's concerned, now I could take this model here, and which is this component, and in its properties, I could give it some base height. I like a little straight meat on the back end, so I'll go, let's go 1/4 of an inch, and I'll kind of raise it up. And let's close that and click off of this. And then, we can end up with, those type of letters with that same apex. That is the only way that I have been able to create that kind of look and everything. And so what do we do with that information? I don't know what we do with that information. I'm just telling you what I found. So now let's so we've talked about the Prism toolpath and kind of its limitations and how things may occur. Let's talk about on the Prism toolpath if I did not create a full prism. Okay. based on my bit. So let's get back to a regular letter. It's got to be a closed vector. We've already established that. And we'll go with the letter L this time because I just kind of am fond of that letter for some reason. I don't know why. All right, we'll go with the letter L. And it's going to be a true type font and nice little New Times Roman. We'll go bold. That's fine on there. And now I've got a much wider area here than I do here. And let's look at my material position. Got to get back up to the top there. So when you change things, you got to keep an eye on that and stuff. Yes. All right. So let's go into the Prism Toolpath. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and go with my 90-degree half-inch V-bit, but I'm going to pick a depth this time. And I'm going to say, let's go 3/4, right? Just, out of my 1.25" material, I'm going 3/4. And if I calculate this, I'm going to get a warning saying, hey, the prism will be truncated with the current settings, okay? With the current tool, you need a minimum prism depth of 0.975 inches if you want to create that full-formed prism across all vectors. Do you wish to continue with the current settings? And you have that choice of saying no or yes. And I'm going to say yes, I want to continue. I'm a rebel that way, right? So we're going to reset the preview that selected toolpath. We're going to come in here and we're going to create a profile toolpath so we can cut it out. And eventually I'll get rid of all these other miscellaneous toolpaths and we'll clean ourselves up here in a minute. But let's cut it out. And get rid of the waste. And we end up with a truncated prism because we did not go the full prism depth. The full prism depth was 0.09 and some change, and I went 0.75. So it only went up so far. Now, because of the arrow or the L, not the arrow, because of the L shape, the wide leg here, and then this branch coming off was narrow and all. Notice once again, it kind of tapers down to that angle, that prism cut. This narrow, let's zoom in. Let's get up on that. This narrow width between here did not require that much height to create a prism cut. Okay. So it is a much lower prism cut because it doesn't, for the space between these two lines to do a full prism cut. Think of a V-carve upside down, right? A V-carve toolpath upside down. And a V-carve toolpath looks at the space between two lines and it calculates how deep it needs to cut automatically for those two lines to meet at a V. Well, it's the same process here, but we're going up. We're creating that prism top. And so this small spacing here did not require as much depth as this one here, the spacing between those two lines. And so that's how we have those varying depths. And that's why you can't get the same size apex within the Prism toolpath or even the chamfer toolpath and things like that. That's why it's really only been that I'm able to find is in the Aspire. Now, if I take and measure, let's play around with our letter here a bit. If I take and measure my distance between here and here, okay, that's my width there. If I come in and do a little bit of node editing, before I go into node editing, let me grab a guideline here and I'm going to snap a guideline to the bottom there. Like that sound effect, that snap sound effect. And I'm going to right click on that guideline to open up my properties. And I'm going to say, hey, create a relative guide going up a positive number, 1.9233. Okay, create a relative guide. There we go. Now, if I come in to this font and convert it to a curve so that I can go into node editing with it, I could do a little bit of manipulation, right? I could take these nodes here. And I could just use my up arrow key and kind of pull them up. Don't worry, I'll fix the other part here in a second. Kind of get them about the same thickness. Let's come into here and let's grab these two nodes, and I'm just going to pull them up over. So it looks like a somewhat of a sexy looking L. It's not that sexy, but hey. And then we're going to fix our little curve here. So this curve is going to kind of sweep around into a little bit of a curve. Let's get rid of that point. I don't even like that point there. And let's pull this down. Something like that. Okay, so now I've kind of got, it's an odd looking L, but now I've got, more of kind of the similar height going on here. Well, what does that do in the terms of a Prism toolpath? Let's go into here, select our vector, Prism toolpath. I'm still going to go with that 0.75, knowing it's not the full prism depth, right? And I'm going to get that warning and everything. Reset my preview that selected toolpath. It's going to be truncated and everything. And let's do a profile cut to cut out. That's a funky looking L. Let's do a profile cut to cut it out. Cut you out. Preview that selected toolpath. Now, in the second here, I'm going to do a full prism on this so we can kind of get that full effect. But we're getting a little bit more consistent in the height, and then of course where these lines are narrower, it requires a lower point, because it doesn't take that much height to create the prism at the top, and especially down here, sweeps way down to that little guy on the back end because he's really close together, right? So it doesn't create that much height. And same thing up here across the top. Now let's come in one last time on this guy and do a full prism. Calculate it. Reset the preview that selected toolpath. And then let's do our profile cut, which is this guy right here. And again, we have that same prism, but look right here where our legs intersect. Here and here. It comes up to that height, and then comes across, then up to that height. And also you got to kind of there, and that's an ugly looking L, but you just got to understand that you're not going to get that same apex height unless you have ability to model it, and kind of create it that way. And most times, what on these letters and things that you see where they do have that same apex height and all, um, most times that they have gone in and created the whole alphabet A through Z with a particular font, and it's a project they carve all the time and all, so they have all of that modeled up. But you and I, if we're just jumping in our VCarve Pro or desktop or what have you, and we don't have the ability to model, we got to kind of figure out what's the way to go, and all. Now, I don't know if that was confusing y'all or if that made any sense, but now let's put it into a real world scenario and let's see what the Prism Cut can do for us as far as design and decor, or not decor, but design and stuff, and creation. And the Prism toolpath is not just for letters, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say I was doing, a star or a flourish, a flower or a flourish or whatever the case may be. I can do the Prism toolpath on any vector that I want, and create that nice prismed design, whatever it may be. And let's do a profile cut to cut that one out. And then I'll delete all these toolpaths and we'll start all over. Let's cut that out. So if you were doing like, a vine design or, something along that lines and everything, and you wanted a nice little prism point and all, but this prism cut here, the way it looks, and I'll think of a starfish, right? Sitting in the on the beach or the ocean. That middle part of that starfish where the legs kind of go up to that point, go up to that point, go up to that point. It's not really consistent on its height. We have that higher peak right there, so it kind of curls into that peak. It curls into that peak. And, if I were to limit that cut, what I mean by limit that cut is basically don't do the full prism. Let's say my full prism is 1.22. So I'm going to go 1.0. Right. Calculate. Yes. Keep going because I know it's not going to be a full prism. Preview. Let's preview this and that. Preview the visible toolpath so it cuts them both out. Of course, my profile cuts on top, so it's going to cut it first. That's okay. This is just for preview purposes only. So even at taking that 1/4 of an inch flat depth, or not flat depth, but that 1/4 of an inch and all, I'm still got that little peak and on a lot. And now all I've ended up doing is just creating a little flat on the end of my star, which isn't that way. And again, so those are the things that we have to understand in all. It's a wonderful tool. I'm going to show you how we can use it in a design right now, but understand that it's not just for letters and all that stuff, but there are limitations. If you see signs hanging on the wall and all the apex of the points are nice and blended together and they're all the same height, you're like, dang, man, that's sharp and all. Well, I have not found any other way to do that, like I said, other than Aspire. And if I do come across, or if Vectric or somebody happens to see this, hey, Vectric, hey, point me in the right direction because, I've been working with this for a while, and this is why I wanted to talk about this class. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these toolpaths because they mean nothing. There we go. And we're going to create a design. We're going to create a kind of a reason, a way that we might be able to incorporate the Prism toolpath into our design and it be pretty cool. But before we get started on that, let's see if we have any questions. Are there certain fonts that work best with the Prism toolpath? There are, and it's nice to have it all consistent. Yes, I agree. And so that's a great question. Are there certain fonts that work better with the Prism toolpath than the others? And my answer is going to be yes. And for me, it's going to be more the block style fonts and things. So let's do a comparison. Let's do a kind of a side by side. So we'll do over here. Move over here. Move over there. There we go. Over here, we'll do a kind of a New Times Roman, and we'll do, what's a good letter? We'll do the letter K, right? Because it's got this little, these legs come into one another and stuff. So we'll do the letter K. We won't even put any balls on it. So that's our first letter here. Okay. And then I'm going to come into kind of a Rockwell font. Even a Tahoma font would be cool, but let's go down to Rockwell. Oops. I gotta click off of that letter. Don't want to be on that letter. Let's move that guy down here. And let me hit the letter R on my keyboard to get back where I was. And then we're also look at a script font as well. And let's go with the same letter K. Okay. And that's an ugly looking K, isn't it? I'm about to make that blend here in a second. And then let's do this. Let's throw this over here. Let's put this one over here. Now I'm going to do a little bit of cheating on this one. I don't like the way that K looks. So I'm going to go into node editing and I'm going to grab these nodes right here, except for this one. Turn that off, hold the shift key, and I'm just going to use my right arrow key. I'm going to kind of pull that K out a little bit. And then I'm going to get out of node editing mode, and I'm going to back that up. Let's hold on a second. Let me get back into node editing. Let's select these, turn off that, hold down the shift key, turn that off, use the right arrow key. Let me pull that out a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one now and back him up just a little bit. And then back all of this up into here. And then I'm going to weld those two together. All right, give me a little bit better looking K there for a minute. All right, so we got that. And let's throw a script kind of font in here as well and see what that does for us also. So, and now I'm not going to use the letter K on the script font because that would be just inappropriate. That was a country redneck joke. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with the letter T. And let's go with a script font. Something with some little curlies to it. Not that curly. Let's see here. Thinking a Water script would be too skinny. It's got to have some kind of meat to it to be worthwhile. Come on, where's all my good scripts? There we go. We'll just use that. All right. And we will have to put that on another layer. Let's move it into the center and let's move that to a new layer, layer 2, and let's turn that off just for a minute. And we'll come back to that one in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and select these two guys, Prism Toolpath here. We've got one more of a block style font, one more of a New Times Roman. We're going to, again, I'm going to use the 90-degree V-bit. I'm going to go full Prism on this, calculate that toolpath, reset the preview. I'm also going to calculate a profile cut just so we can cut them out and look at them. Calculate that. And let's preview the visible toolpaths. And this side view, we'll get it pulled back up into the correct view in a moment. Cut that out. Get rid of that. And let's go full on. And, you know, so in here, this, other than that little divots right there, this style with the different size legs and everything, this New Times Roman looks, you know, much classier, I guess. I don't know what the topic of the word is and all, versus the block font. I like the block font on certain letters, the K, not this one, but you know, we have that little hump there. And also, no matter what, even here, you know, we have that hump right here where it transitions from side. We're going to get that with the Prism toolpath. But your New Times Roman, your kind of your decorative fonts and all, they would look good because you got to think about being gilded all. The block fonts, they're just blocky, you know, especially these boxes and things up here. When you have different heights and on it transitions in, much better looking. But let's take a look at our other layer. Let's look at our script font. And let's see what that looks like as a prism cut. Wonder what it looks like. All right, full prism on this. Calculate. Reset our preview. Let's. How am I going to do a profile cut on that without cutting this out? Bear with me a second. Gotta think. Think. Don't do that. I was in the wrong layer. And that layer back off. Make sure you're working in the right layer. I got to do a profile cut on this. So I need to kind of convert this to a curve. Um, mm, a little bit of a blend there. Weld those two together, at least get some consistency. There we go. All right, one more time. Prism Toolpath. Set the full prism depth. Calculate. Profile toolpath. Cutting all the way through the material. Calculate. And let's preview those simple toolpaths. It's going to be super thin on the top side. All right, let's get to that. And not too shabby, but very thin, fragile material here. Got something, that prism, just don't know how to act where it kind of swoops around in that curl here. And then it really steps up to where it's much wider here. So it really has to kind of step down and up into that. But hanging on a wall, let's see here. Oh no, not too shabby. I'd much rather do a chamfered letter on that. But so script fonts probably not so much a good idea because they have to have some kind of width. These are designed. Prism Toolpath was originally designed for large letters that were cut out of thick material, and I said this at the beginning, that would hang on a wall for like a grocery store or a sign or those kind of things. You're outside your subdivision, you got that stone wall, and you've got the letters of the word or whatever, Eagle Gate, that's where Prism Toolpaths really shine and stuff. But we're going to make it shine a little bit in an actual project, which I said I've been saying for about a half hour, but somebody asked the question about the font. Um, let's see here. Let's go ahead and let's create a design. Let's import an image. Catch up to me now. Not you guys, my computer. Do I have that in my clip art? Stand by. It's being a little bit of a aggressive pain in the butt today. Come on. Come on. It's thinking. All right, let's see here. Custom images. I got to really sit down one day and build up my custom image library. We're going to drag this over here. Some layers, that's fine. All right, let's get rid of our 2Ks. Don't need them in there anymore. Let's do this kind of F9 to center, and then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to kind of move it over. And let's create some text. Let's size this down actually a little bit. Let's go with 1.5 inch tall. And let's get a font that we can admire. I'm going to use the Cooper Black font here a little bit. It's almost kind of a semi mix between a block font and all that stuff. And I'm not making anything really cool or creative. I just tree of life, right? Just to kind of simulate this a bit. I'm going to break this up into individual lines, right click and break text block into lines so that I can come in here and let's size that up a little bit. Come in here. And then size that up a little bit. Move up there. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's select all of these. Let's go with a centering of that onto the material. I'm going to take the whole thing and size it down just a little bit more. Not much, because I want to put a border around this. And I'd like to do we'll do a rectangular border to begin with. And let's offset that inward. We'll go a 1/2 inch inward. Sharp corners, delete the original. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool and I'm going to throw some radiuses in here. We'll just go with a nice 1/2 inch radius, nothing special. Oh, no, that's too small. Let's go 1 inch radius. Okay. All right, delete that one where my finger just hit the click button. All right. Now, on this, I'm going to do a little bit of a raised effect on here. So for this guy, I'm going to ungroup him and I'm going to create an offset, an outline border around him. But before I do, I'm going to move him over just a little bit. Move him over just a little tab. I'm going to offset him outward a 1/16 of an inch. Don't need sharp corners. Don't want to delete the original. Select a new. I'm going to click offset. Give it a second. It's a thinking. And then I'm going to turn off. All I cared about was this 1/16 of an inch border on the outside. So I'm going to turn that off and hit my delete key and get rid of everything else. I just wanted that extra outside border around the design. It creates a little island for my carving to carve on. We're going to get to y'all's questions right after these messages here in just a second. Now, if I were to come in and let's say V carve this or carve this. Now I've got to carve a pretty decent size. If I want these letters to be truncated, I got to carve a pretty decent size pocket. If I were to look at the Prism toolpath just on the letters, right? Let's kind of select all these because I want to prism them out. If I come in here and I'm going to base this off of my 1/2 inch 90-degree V-bit. And so about 0.2352, right? That's a full prism. So my pocket cut needs to at least be that or a little bit deeper, like 1/4 of an inch or something. I'll probably go 1/4 because I like a little bit of the straight meat underneath instead of just a full prism into the flow. But however you would want to do that. But we need to at least hit that 1/4 of an inch. Okay. So if I come in here and let's select all of this, and I'm going to do a V carve toolpath, and I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch, right? At least 0.23 or more, right? So I'm going to go 0.25. I'm going to use a 60-degree V bit. I'm not worried about that. I could do my 90-degree V bit. I could kind of keep things consistent. I do want to try it with using a different bit just to see what it does, because I would prefer the 60 on the Tree of Life. But we'll keep things consistent here for a moment. And I'm going to use an 1/8 inch end mill to kind of do some flat work. And I'm going to calculate this. I'm going to raster. I like to raster instead of offset, so I carve with the grain, so I don't have to do any sanding. I'm not a big sanding fan. Yes, William, I'm going to answer that question. That's a good question. I'm going to answer that here in just a second for you. there's a way that you draw the box, left to right or right to left. Let this calculate, and then I'll show you exactly what I mean in as soon as it finishes calculating, as soon as that blue line runs across. So William's question was, "Hey man, when you selected those 2Ks, you barely drug a box over them, and it selected them. In mine, I have to drag around the whole thing. How do I change that?" So, which is a very good question. And basically, it's how you draw your selection box. So when it's almost done. It's getting there. When you draw from left to right, your object that you're trying to select has to be 100% in that selection window. When you draw your selection box from right to left, whatever that box touches, it will select. Let this calculate. It's almost there. It's a thinking. It's like, oh man, oh man. It's the tree of life that's making it think a little bit. Hey, we're trying to have a class here. There you go. Get with the program. And it's being stubborn. All right, real quick. Whether you're in Vectric, VCarve, Desktop, Pro, or Aspire, doesn't matter. When you have an object, let's get some objects on the board, William. Whatever those objects are. If you're drawing your box from left to right, you've got to be 100% around the items. If it's not 100% in the selection, it will not select it. But if you draw right to left, whatever that box touches, it will select. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. So just draw from right to left. So even if my line barely touches them, it's going to select it right to left. Left to right, it's got to be 100% in the box. All right, let's get back here. Let's reset this preview back to a blank board. Let's preview the visible toolpath and get with the program. William, when you said I've got a question, I'm trying to figure out how to type it. Was that the question about how to select, or was there another question? Now, I'm doing this as a V carve, right? I'm going to show you how it would look if I did it not as a V carve with a pocket, just a straight pocket cut. But I'm doing it as a V carve kind of because of the fact that I want my tree of life to V carve, kind of in this little island, right? Just a very simple little shallow V carve in this little puck of an island, if you will. All right. Now, from here, right, I've done that 90 degree, and this is why I don't like the 90 degree. It makes everything look fat, especially at that quarter of an inch. I'd prefer 60, but that's okay. And I'd get a little bit more depth out of my tree of life here also with a 60. But as a V-carve, now if I come in here and I select my tree of life and I do that prism cut, full prism on the tree of life, calculate that toolpath and preview that visible toolpath. Okay. I've got my prism cut letters here, but notice that I have an offset angle from the 90 degree earlier, right? If I would have done this as a pocket cut instead of a profile, it would be, better. Now I'm going to have to, on my prism and everything, I'm going to have to kind of do a little bit of a pocket cut to clean up around the letters to get it to look right. So we'll do that. We'll come back and do that in a second, but let's do it as a straight pocket first. You can kind of get what I was trying to throw at you here. Let's go back to this and let's select this, not the inside of the tree, But all of this, the border and the outside vector. Oh, where's my outside vector at? There it is. One more. Outside vector. I hit the wrong button. Okay, one more time. This guy and that outside border, I'm going to do a straight pocket, 1/4 of an inch deep, 0.25. Yeah, 1/8 inch nail is fine for this. And I'm going to calculate. Okay. That way I don't have the offset of the letter. You see where it's cleaned up right here, or how it's close to where the letters are going to do that little prism. So let's reset preview. Preview that visible toolpath. And the 1/8 inch end mill and some of the letters, it's not going to be able to get, fit too well, and the letters aren't going to look good. And that's where the Prism toolpath will come back and clean those up when it does the Prism cut and all. Come on. So now we have this. Now on my tree of life, I'm going to do my Prism toolpath, and I have it. I think it's right here. Yeah, it's right there. I've got my Prism toolpath. We'll go ahead and preview that visible toolpath. Okay, so it gives me that nice prism look with my little few thousandths of an inch underneath. Now it doesn't look clean because I'm in a low resolution for time's sake, but we may turn this up in a second so you can see what it actually looked like. But now I have that nice prismed look on my letters on my sign. And let's get our little tree of life going on in here. Create that bad boy. That's going to be a V-carve toolpath. And I will use a 60 degree for this, just because I want to. And no, let's see here. Yeah, I'll do an 1/8 inch end mill for a flat depth. Calculate that. It's got to do some thinking. And some more thinking. All right. Now, if you guys and girls have any questions, let me know. But I'm showing you how to incorporate that Prism Cool Path into your Cool Path. Cool. It is a cool tool path. You just gotta, know how to use it. Big letters, cutting out of thick material to hang on a wall, live life love, that type of thing, or Johnson's Market and that type of thing. But in small designs, you can incorporate it to where you get that prism cut on your letters, and instead of a pocket area, where they're kind of raised up with that prism cut. And then let's preview that visible toolpath. Let's get that going on here. All right. And let's I don't know, let's give this thing some color just to see for kicks and giggles. On my, let's say I gilded my letters here, my prism. Let's go into here and let's give those guys, I'm going to double click on the word toolpath here to bring this box up. That's my toolpath layer box. On the prism, which is those guys there, I'm going to give that a color of kind of a gold. My V-carve toolpath here, we're gonna we'll just go black on that one and black on. Oops, hold on a second. I changed. Gotta click it. Black This one's black. And this one's gold. And then where's my pocket at? My pocket's right there. That's that dude. Let's give my pocket, I don't know. Let's go black as well. Let's go with something a little different. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know. I might have to stick with black. But let's close this. Let's click off of these toolpaths here. And, you know, whatever the case may be. A little bit of gold leafing, right? A little bit of gold leafing and all, but you could have that nice pocket cut with those prism cut letters in there, right? Instead of just flat raised letters and all with a nice chamfered edge. If you want a nice prism cut, that's how you could kind of incorporate that into a sign or a business sign or something, and all. So yeah. Yeah. Let's tilt this sideways. You can kind of see that, you know. Imagine that saying Joe's Market or something. Yeah, big day. You could do it as a 3D model, but again, I'm not in Aspire, so I can't build a model. Um, I can throw a 3D into this project instead of this tree of life. I could have done it as a 3D model, and things like that. Um, let's an example of that would be, let's get rid of this and let's import a 3D model. And for those of you that are training subscribers, this would be your April model that you got just recently. Let's go to Spindle TV. Not that one, sorry. Spindle TV files. American Pride, Difficult Roads, Eagle, US flag. Is it in here? Yeah, Tree of Life. All right, let's import this model that I made for the guys and girls that subscribe for training. It's coming. It's an STL. I don't know why my computer's thinking today. Let me close the Aspire. Okay. Let me size it appropriately. Let's see here. What do I want to size this to? I want to size it to. How tall was my board? Let's go 6 inches by 6 inches. Click apply. I'll size it up when I get it in there. Center that model. And slide that bar down. This is the orientation. I'm orientating it to my material. And let's click OK to bring that into the project. All right, let's close out of here. Let's go in and look at our model here. And let's get it sized up and positioned correctly. Now the size of my model, my model height is going to be, you know, the dependent on, or my pocket basically is going to be dependent on my model height and stuff. But let's get that onto the board. Okay, so imagine it is a 3D model, And imagine, we got the tree of life here. Let's change the text up. Let's see here. Let's select on the tree. We'll go, oh man, what's a good quote that would be, uh, here, I'll just go pretend this is somebody's store and that's their logo, right? So it's, if, uh, right, who knows? All right, let's get this, close this, get rid of life. Let's break this up into individual text lines. Let's get this down and sized appropriately. Mixing everything up now. All right. Smith and Son Construction, whatever it might be. Let's yeah, let's add some more text in there. Smith and daughter. Smith and Son. Come on, text box. We're in a hurry here now. All right, there we go. That would be apostrophe S, right? Smith and Sons Construction. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Might be. All right, let's throw that over here. Let's take construction and bring it down here. Let's take our logo, or our model, should I say, and size that not that small. Come on, get with the program there. Okay, let's take all of this and this and center it onto our material. Perfect. Okay. All right. So this guy right here, this model here, currently has a model height, needs to be at the top of my material, currently has a model height of 0.1926 or 1967, which is fine because I'm probably going to still be at about 1/4 of an inch for my pocket depth. So that all that means is I'm going to have a little bit of meat underneath my model, which is good. I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever. Now, if I didn't want any meat under my model, then what I would do is I would bring that model down and put a gap above the model of that, 0.25 minus 0.1967 equals, and that gap above my model plus my model thickness would be, 0.25, right? And so we'll do it that way. And so what we're going to do is in here, we're going to go into, and I'm still in VCarve Pro, guys. We're going to create a boundary around our selected model. We're going to select that boundary. We're going to select the outside border here, Smith and Son Construction, and we're going to create a pocket toolpath. Now, my size of my letters and all might have changed, right? So let's just take a little gander here. Let's go into the Prism toolpath and say set full prism height 0.2326, right? So I'm still good at the 0.25. So come in here and select my boundary, and I'm doing a pocket toolpath, 0.25, calculate, let it run through and calculate that. Reset the preview. Let's zoom out here. Preview the visible toolpath. And I will answer questions after this one previews, guys and girls. Yes, and I will, Ronnie, after I do this toolpath, I'll show you how long it would take to carve it. Can the text go over the top of an image? Sure. You just got to blend it in. It's like a text on text design, but it's a text on image. Yes. Yes, you could. Yep. Big Daddy, I'll see if I can show that here towards the end. Let's get past this Prism toolpath and on. Get these letters prismed out, and now I'm gonna take this let that cut out. Okay, so we've got that carved there, right? Okay, now I've got a 3D model finish cut. I could do a rough cut to hog away the waste material, right? But the model height's not that big. It's like what I say, 0.19 something. So I'm just going to go straight to a 3D finish. I'm going to use the either the model or the selected vector, either one as the boundary. That's only I need to go in here. I'm going to let my bit go past the boundary, just a small amount, kind of get it to blend a little bit, not much, but blend. And so I'm going to let it go past the boundary by 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose for this. A 1/16 of an inch tapered ball nose would probably be better for that model at that size, but we'll stick with the 1/8. That's fine. 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. Raster cut. Selected vector is the boundary. Calculate that bad boy out. Let it run. And Big Daddy Fish says, can the text go over the top of an image? Then he pops out again and says 3D image. Can it go over? Can the text go over a 3D image? Yes. And yes, we just have to project the toolpath onto the 3D model. So it follows the curve of that model. Now, if I'm wanting to, let's say I had this medallion, right? Let's say I had this medallion right, taking up the whole board, and in the middle of that medallion, I wanted to do, the Joneses or what have you. I would create a rectangle vector boundary that would, I'd create a rectangle vector boundary where my text is going to go, and I would blend that with the circle, and that would be the selected vectors, and I would let the model carve in the selected vectors, so it would carve above that rectangle, below it, and all that, and that rectangle would still be left undone. And then I could carve my text in it, and all. That's one way to approach it. As far as prism cutting, down in it, I'm not sure. We'll find out, though. I mean, we can always check things out. All right, let's preview that visible toolpath. Okay. All right, now hold your bananas there, boy. Not you guys. This thing. You see, I don't know if y'all saw what I saw, but it was carving a little deep. Let me see if something's changed here. Look at there. Get back up there. I don't know why I keep doing it, because I moved the model. You always got to check, especially if you're working off the machine bed. If you make any move or sudden changes or size changes and all, you've got to come back in here and check this. So once again, we need that 0.25 minus 0.1967 equals, okay, we need that little gap, but we don't need it down at the bottom. And I moved it after I had set it that first time, and I did not go back to my material setup and reset that height. So I'm going to take 2 seconds here, and I'm going to recalculate that finished toolpath. It should be much quicker this time. Recalculate. Let that zip across. How much memory do you have on your laptop? I'm on my desktop office computer. I don't know how much memory I have on my laptop. My laptop is 8 gigs of RAM or something like that. I don't know. It's out in the shop. My office computer here, Buddy Row. Let me see here. Let that calculate out while I'm looking. System about. Eight gigabytes of installed RAM. And AMD A10 5700 APU with a Radeon HD graphics card. Not much, just a basic computer. All right, so that's finished recalculating. On our pocket toolpath, we're going to not do anything with that. We're going to reset this preview and preview. Double click on that so I can get here. Preview those two toolpaths again. Now, the reason why I put that gap above the model is that my model's a certain height, and I'm carving this pocket down to 1/4 of an inch, and I want my model to be down in that pocket. I don't want to add that extra, 0.09 additional meat around it and everything. So I just want to, bring my model down to that level that pocket's getting cut at, and all, and all. Hey, y'all. Hey, Chris. How you doing, bud? Chris Cross Crafts. I have referred 4 people to your speed and feed video today during my training classes. They were asking about speeds and feeds on machines and stuff. And are there any good resources out there? I said, well, here's a great little 12-minute video for you to watch just to get some general ideas. It's and everything. So I referred your videos, man. Good stuff. I said, this will give you a concept of what we're looking for: sound, observation, chip size, and everything. I said, go watch it. Let's see here. If it's Vectric clip art, you can always re-download the clip art. Let me see here if it doesn't have a finish on it yet. Well, you guys must be having a conversation to yourselves. I just thought y'all were asking me something. All right, so here's our model, and then we got to do our final prism cut on our letters. All right, so there's our model cut. 1/16 of an inch bit would be much better for that size of model, but hey, that's okay. This is just, instructions. I'm not actually going to run this. But a 1/16 inch tapered ball nose would give me much more detail on that. And so now our prism toolpath is going to be on our text here. My full prism depth, 90-degree V bit. Even if if it's bit based, right? So even if I said 60-degree V bit, right? I could set my full prism depth now on the 60, it's a 40, 0.4 inches, almost a 1/2 inch deep. So for me, I want to stick at 1/4 of an inch. So I am going to use my 90-degree 1/2 inch bit, but you can use different bits. It doesn't have to be just the 90 half, right? And things like that. Set my full prism depth and calculate that toolpath. And then we can preview that visible toolpath. And now we got a cool little sign with some prism letters, right? Nice little raised prism cut letters and all. And again, if I were doing something with this as far as coloring, let's say my pocket cut. Let's come into here. My pocket cut. Let's say I wanted to, black background. My prism carve. I want to gild that for the guys and girls. Give us some nice lettering and all. And my 3D finish cut. Wonder what that would look like if I gilded that. Kind of, I don't know. But anyway, just it's all for example purposes and everything. But so now you got a nice prism carved letters, nice classy looking little sign and things. And the prism toolpath doesn't get a whole lot of love. It should, though. It's a good toolpath. It's pretty cool for things like that. and everything. It just gives a completely different, unique look than your flat letters and all and everything. So let's kind of do a little bit of a comparison, apples to apples, right? So this is our sign with our Prism toolpath, right? And so let's do the same sign very quickly. And select this guy, and let's do a V-carve toolpath. I'll even I want to do a 60-degree V-bit. So 60-degree V-bit, is that my 60? It is. Very good. 1/4 inch depth, 1/8 inch end mill. Calculate that bad boy out. All right, once again, let's turn off the tool pass so we can see. All right, get that visual in your head, those nice Prism letters. And again, they're pixelated right now on the screen because I'm using a low resolution preview. But it's elegant, you wouldn't see all those artifacts and stuff if I turn the resolution up. But nice, Prism cut letters. All right, let's reset this preview. And let's preview our V-carve toolpath with our 3D finish. Here, model cut, preview the visible toolpaths. And again, smaller bit, better detail on that. All right, let me go up. I'm going to scroll up, see what kind of questions I'm overlooking here. I'm looking, I'm reading while that's carving. And yes, Ronnie, I haven't forgot about telling you how long it'll carve. I have a laptop, V-carve 10 on the laptop on it. I had my laptop upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Not doing well. Is there a way to get my V-carve 10 on another laptop with Windows 10 on it and not losing my clipboard? Yeah, Carl, on that question there, you have your software inside of your Vectric VNCO account. I know that all the guys and girls answered your question in the chat and everything, but you can download that from your account with your clip art and everything. It's all stored digitally in your Vectric VNCO account. All right, so now let's take a look here. Let's give it the same kind of treatment, right? Let's oh, you son of a gun. Son of a gun, that's what I meant. I hit the wrong button. I hit the reset button when I meant to hit the yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Chris just did a tree of life for a customer. It was part of a wooden book. Ooh, a wooden book. I bet you that looked nice. Very nice. You guys are questions. That's cool. Okay. While this is let me to you. A lot of you have requested to join the digital or not digital. Oh, the Spindle TV subscribers group on Facebook, right? And which is great. And for those of you subscribed, let in and all. But now there's some of you that have asked to join the group, and you're customers of mine, digital woodcarver customers and everything too. And there's one simple question, one simple requirement for the group. Are you subscribed to Spindle TV on YouTube? You wouldn't believe how many people said no. There's more than 20. So you guys need to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now. Subscribe, and then go back and re-answer your question and tell me that you're part of you're subscribed to Spindle TV. So I'll let you into the group. I'm not letting you in the group until you subscribe. I've got a whole list of people sitting there waiting, pending, and everyone says, "Are you subscribed to Spindle TV?" No, no, no. I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute, that's one of my customers. Wait, they're all my customers. Y'all better subscribe. Hit that like button too. All right, let's get back to the class. Okay. All right. So what I was trying to do a moment ago before I accidentally reset is I wanted to give this the same kind of love. Let's say that my V-carve letters here, it's going to be a little bit different in this case. So let's do it this way. Because my V-carve letters is the whole thing. So let's go we'll just blacken it up a little bit. Black around there and black around there. All right. And I can't make the top of my letters gold like my medallion, so I'll turn the gold off on the Prism. Turn that off to none. Turn that off to none. All right. So imagine it was gilded, right? But this is just a simple V-carve raised letters, right? So we got our flat top and our nice 60-degree angle letters and all that stuff. Let's turn the material color off altogether. And also we have that. Ignore the little 1/8" ring around there. That was just me not cleaning up my pocket there a little bit. But, that versus the Prism letters, I'm kind of a fan of the Prism letters on that one. You take a vote. Tell me in the comment section which one you like, the Prism or the regular V-carve. So there's the regular V-carve letters, right? Stop moving it around, lady, so I can see it. All right, so there's the regular V-carve letters. And then once again, Prism, 3D finish, pocket. Preview visible toolpath, let that cut out, and then you guys can take a vote. All right, so let's see here. What else do we have? I am holding them hostage, man. They can't get into the group without that. Let's see here. Let's say the Tree of Life did not have the text. How do you add it to the model? All right, so if the Tree of Life model didn't have that text, the only way to add it to the model would be to in Aspire to add those letters on and build them up as a model around. The only other way to do that is you would create a boundary, or like let's say that this outside ring here was the boundary. Then we have an inside boundary that our model was within, and I'm creating this rim on my own, right? So I'm doing kind of these raised letter effect, like I've got going on here, and then my model's getting cut inside of that inner boundary, so it gives the effect or the illusion that I have these raised letters on. I can do that in Desktop and Pro, but if my model didn't have letters on it, if I wanted to add them in after the fact, I draw a circle, offset that circle inward, have my text in there, create that V-carve pocket cut. So it gives me that raised letters, and then my 3D model, my Tree of Life, would be carved within that inner boundary. And so that's one way to do it. Other than that, you need Aspire to add those letters and extrude them out of the model, if that was actually part of the model and stuff. So yeah, and then here's our Prism letters, kind of gives a nice little classy sign looking look. And all that wonderful stuff. So there's a little comparison. So Prism Toolpath doesn't get a whole lot of love. You guys should give it some love every once in a while. Remember, it's bit based on your V-bit and everything. That full prism depth. After you set your V-bit, you select that full prism depth, based on it. And I don't have anything selected. That's why I just jumped to 3 something. But you set your full prism depth, and that's what it needs. At least that's what your cut's going to go to. So again, this is typically designed for large type signs, and this is a small sign, right? This was just doing it inside of a pocket, right? With and so it applies there too. But I'm talking about where you usually see prism carved designs are big letters that you see hanging on a wall, and things like that. And also give it some love from time to time, but don't forget about your chamfer Toolpath, as well as your chamfer gadget and your bevel toolpath, using your profile cut as well as your chamfer. And once again, we'll do a bevel cut one more time on this. Let's say let's do a bevel cut. I'm thinking. Okay, profile toolpath. I'm gonna go 0.25 depth with let's go with a 90-degree V-bit on the outside of the line. I wonder, yeah, on the outside line. I don't know how that's going to work on my T's. It might cut into my letters. We're going to find out. That 0.25, that V-bit gets quite wide. So on something this small, let's do 1/8 of an inch. Bevel. And on my corners, inside and outside corners, that this 1/8 of an inch means I need to kind of do an 1/8 of an inch offset around the letters and all, with a profile or a pocket cut, whatever the case may be. 0.125 is my magic number for that. But if I were to calculate that, reset the preview the visible toolpath, we have this kind of chamfered, almost looks like a V-carve cut, right? And now in here, I'm going to come in, and in my V-carve toolpath, like if I wanted to do a V-carve toolpath, in this case, it wouldn't be a V-carve, it would be a pocket. I don't know why I'm just doing that. Sorry, guys and girls. In my pocket toolpath, what I want to make sure of is, when I cut, let's say down another 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch. And my raster angle is going to be 0. I'm going to cut with the grain. But my allowance, my pocket allowance, right, is going to be 0.125. That's what the allowance required for that bevel. And so I'll use an 1/8 inch end mill. That's fine. Calculate that. And wait a minute. What? Oh, it's not a pocket toolpath. I'm an idiot. Hold on a second. My profile toolpath. Yeah. Yeah, Lenny. You got it, bud. Okay. My pocket toolpath. Thank you very much. I needed a border. It is a pocket toolpath, but I was missing that border there, and I'll select that as well. 1/4 of an inch deep. Pocket allowance is going to be 0.125. I'm going to calculate that allowance. Preview the visible toolpath. And I'll be damned if I didn't accidentally hit the little button that cut the 2 little dots in my end and all. So ignore those dots right there. They don't belong. Come on. Okay. Ignore the cheese grated holes. That was on me. But So what this did is it creates almost like a V-carve cut, right? But it creates that beveled edge on the letters, sharp inside and outside corners, and then I have a little bit of extra meat underneath and everything. So that's another option, not my go-to option or anything. But and again, ignore the cheddar cheese right there or the Swiss cheese. I didn't mean to poke the holes there. But so we got our bevel toolpath using the profile cut, and then of course we have our chamfer gadget that we can use and in different things. But the prism carving, next time you do a sign with raised letters or something, incorporate the prism toolpath into it. Give it a new look. If it's fitting, of course. If it's something that fits appropriately and everything. We don't get a whole lot of love on it, and I believe we should start to pay attention to some of these neglected toolpaths and all. All right. I'm sweating to death. It's like an oven in here with these lights. And I got to get my lighting covers on. I don't have my covers on, so I look really washed out right now. I actually do have some complexion, but I don't have the diffusers onto my lights right now. I got to put them on. Slowly progress. I just got the lights up last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm working on it. All right, so let's see here. William Finley says, would running the profile pass on the line with a V-bit do the same thing? So a profile toolpath on the line with a V-bit would create kind of a V carving in. So here, let me show you. Profile toolpath. We'll use a 90-degree V-bit on the line. That means it's going to cut on the line here. And I'm just going to go and they're small letters. So let's go a 16th, 0.065. On the line, if we calculate this, it's going to create kind of a V chamfered outline inward, if that makes sense. But it basically creates kind of that V cut on the line, chamfer on both edges. And let me turn up. This is where I need to turn up the simulation quality because it's really pixelated. And let's go back over here. So I got on my text, I just did Smith & Sons. I've got a profile toolpath, cutting a 16th of an inch deep. Oh, we can go an 8th. 1/8 inch deep, 90-degree V-bit on the line. We calculate this. Okay, let's zoom out here. Preview the visible toolpath. That is basically, my V bit is doing a V carving, right? On both sides of the bit, it's carving on both sides on the line. So it's creating more of a chamfer than I want. It's actually cutting into my letters and things and kind of making them minimalistic. It's hard to see. It's hard to tell what's the outline and stuff. But let me add some color to it. Let's do a light color so it's not so deafening. But all right, so the color is where my bit carved, and the wood that's all that's left is all the meat that's left. So it doesn't create that chamfered look, or that chamfered look. I've got just very little meat left on my letters and everything at the top. So it would not be the ideal situation for that, because I have flat spots in some areas. I'm peaking at others, and when I say peaking, I'm talking about coming up to its peak, and then I'm flat spotting and all. So it would not be the optimal choice there, William. Okay. So, any questions before we kind of get ready to depart? Tonight was just a basic class talking about the Prism toolpath. Not a whole lot more I can say about it. We will explore Aspire later on, and creating letters and all with that same apex height, right? How to create decorative letter models, because it's going to be a model. It's the only way I found out to do it. somebody can tell me or show me differently, then man, I'm all for it. Because I've tried every single way, and the only way I can get the apex at the same height is with a spire through modeling. If you come across the way, let me know. Now, if your V-bit has a tip diameter, not a true point, then you will have a small step at the bottom. Right, that's an engraving bit that Chris Cross is talking about. So he's talking about if you do a Chris, are you referring to the profile cut on the line with the V-bit or engraving bit with a tip diameter? Or was it a different toolpath? Because I'm gonna show the profile. So what Chris is saying is, let's say we were doing a 1/8" cut depth with an engraving bit. Where's my engraving bit? I'm gonna go 20 degrees for right now. That's the only one I have in here. With a 0.02 flat depth. It doesn't have a point. It's got a flat depth and everything. And on the line, and I calculate that toolpath. What Chris is saying is you will have that flat kind of step down around the letters. So now I'm getting much more definition out of the top of my letters because I'm using a smaller angle bit, right? I'm using a 20 degree versus a 22 degree. So that 20 degree bit, I'm getting much more consistency and definition. It's almost like a bevel cut, like what William was asking. But with the 90 degree V bit, I wasn't getting that. With this, I kind of am, but I get that flat kind of step here to that depth. And now I could do a pocket cut in here and, pocket away around the letters and, have them raised with that kind of effect going on. If I were to pocket cut that, I would have to know what my offset is. Let's do this. It'll tell me in the profile toolpath. Let's go down to sharp corners. Oops. I got to be on the outside of the line. I can't be on the line to get sharp inside and outside corners. I've got to be on the outside. So on the line is not going to be an option for what I'm wanting to do, but outside the line, I get an offset here that helps me. So if I copy that value, if I calculate that, reset that preview the visible toolpath. Did I do outside or inside the line on that one? Stand by a second, guys and girls. Did I do inside or outside? Did outside. Okay. It just looked weird. All right. So now that that's done. That's with an engraving bit with a flat tip. Now that I have that, I could remove all that inner area using my pocket toolpath on those same vectors, but this time an allowance offset based on the value that the profile toolpath gave me, and preview that visible toolpath. And here's the problem that I'm going to have with that. It's coming along. It's not done yet. I'm not going to say I have a problem until it's done. In the large screen. Thank you very much. In the large screen. So this is a profile toolpath on the outside of the line with a 20 degree V-bit or engraving bit, not a V-bit, with a flat depth, 20 thousandths flat depth tip. Followed by a pocket cut to cut away the waste material around these letters. And the offset of that pocket cut is based on the chamfer or that what that engraving bit gave me. I'm not liking right now what I see, and again, it's such a high resolution toolpath. It's going to take forever. So for time's sake purposes, ignore a little bit of pixelation. Let's turn the quality down just a little bit, or up a little bit, not down, or down. And let's preview that and preview the visible toolpath. And it should be a little bit faster. Yep. So Chris throws in some other good tips and all. Um, he's saying you can also offset the tool out the distance of your tip of your diameter and things. Yeah. So I want you, when this finishes carving, I want to look at this and I want you to notice the raised V. Kind of on the outside of the cut, and that's what occurs with that. It's going to do it's not done yet. It's going to do a profile cut to clean up around the letters. So it's pocketing first, and it should do a profile kind of cleanup on that pocket cut. Almost there. But I'm getting, we're getting some inconsistencies in the letters. They don't look as, as bold or what have you. And this is the last pass right here. And then once it does the last pass, it should come back and clean a profile cut. Yeah, not a good cleaning, but not a great cleaning. Now this is the result of doing a V carve, on the outside of the line, a V bit, and then a pocket cut to kind of come around. It doesn't, give you that same effect, but who knows? I might have done that wrong. But anyhow, I don't think I did. Let me look at what I got here. My pocket cut has my offset raster, 1/4 of an inch deep, and my profile cut, 1/8 inch, 20-degree V bit on the outside of the line with sharp corners inside and out. Yeah, and so that's the result I end up with. But not something I would carve, but definitely something to think about. So no, William, I would probably stay away from that option, William. Now you can take some of Chris's advice about offsetting and stuff, and you can look at that, and how can I get some private class time? Well, very simply, you can go to let me bear with a second here. digitalwoodcarver.com. When the site loads, you can click on Learn to Carve or hover your mouse over Learn to Carve and one-on-one training. So you click there. And it's going. It's moving. Just things are slow tonight. Come on now. We're trying to teach a class. Move along. On the training page, when it loads, scroll all the way down. After it loads, scroll all the way down to the bottom. And we have options. So you have a non-subscription option, right? Hour at a time, $45 an hour, or a monthly subscription option for $10 a month. You get an hour a month of training and 2 free project downloads, models or projects that I design and create for you guys each month. Or you could do an annual, $110 a year, which is basically 12 months for the price of 11. That gives you 12 hours of training that you can use any way you want throughout that year. It doesn't have to be once a month. It can be, anytime. And then you get 24 projects, 2 projects each month mailed to you for that annual subscription. So you would choose one of those options, and then you'll get a confirmation email, and in that confirmation email will have your code and a schedule button. And whenever you want to schedule an appointment, you just click on that, choose your time zone, pick a date and a time, and it will lock you in, and I'll initiate the call to you at that time and day. And that's how you would get one-on-one training. Cool. Thanks for asking. All right, let's see here. What can we do to remove the inner islands on letters? You do a pocket cut, but those inner islands, those are actually the letters. It's this outside area right here that needs to be gone, right? That outside area needs to be gone in the case of this, not the inside. But if you have, if you have letters going, you have islands in there, you gotta, select those vectors and do little pocket cuts with a small bit to mill them down to whatever depth they're supposed to be at. Yep. Now Chris has a great thing. He said, "Hey, text is bad with that method. He only used it on borders, so that's good." Troy, thanks for popping in. Better late than ever. We're about to say goodbye in the next 5 minutes, so you'll have to catch this video, in class. But I'm glad you could still make it by, man. I appreciate you. Let's see here. Anna, is there sing? No, I'm not singing tonight. I know I have a microphone in front of me, but no, I'm not singing tonight. All right. Let's see here. Let's get back to me for a minute. All right, guys and girls, we're about to say goodnight. We're 2 hours and 22 minutes into this. Not a whole lot to talk about with the Prism carving toolpath. I just wanted to show it to you because it's one of those toolpaths that don't get a whole lot of love. From time to time, we are going to visit toolpaths that don't get a lot of attention, as well as tools that don't get a lot of attention. And definitely join. I'm not going to have an in the shop class this week. We don't have a project. I'm still working on my round lithophane, so I'll have something to show you guys next week. But tonight was hey, let's look at this toolpath and talk about it. But I also wanted to show the Chamfer Gadget, a little bit of the Chamfer Gadget, not much of it, because not everybody has access to the gadget library. And then I also want to talk about the profile toolpath and doing beveled edges and all. But the prism cutting, adding Prism toolpaths to your designs and signs, or just cutting out Prism letters for wall hanging art and everything is a wonderful thing to do. Imagine this spindle TV behind me, in Prism cut letters, right? It would look sexy as all be it, but unfortunately I haven't done that yet. So you guys are looking at a green screen background. All right, now, any last minute questions as we wrap up here? Spindle TV saves. Yes. Where can we find you in Burl's videos? Spindle TV saves all of his videos. Where can we find Burl in my videos that we do on Wednesday night? Brian or Baron, not Brian. Baron. I know your name's Baron. I call you all the time. Baron, Digital Woodcarver YouTube channel. So youtube.com/digital woodcarver, or just go to type in the search bar up at the top of YouTube, Digital Woodcarver, and go to our channel and the videos that we've done. Especially, I know you're looking for the 4848 video. It's on there. All right, cool. Smith was my maiden name. Great one to pick. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Thanks for the class. Always enjoy learning something. Good night, everyone. Good night, Lenny. Good night, Tippy. Have a great night. Yeah, and that would be perfect for the tiling toolpath project. Exactly, it would be. And it's again, prism carving. Cutting out letters. Imagine that. Where I'm at over here. That spindle TV carved out, prism cut letters hanging on the wall, or live, laugh, love. You see those signs all the time, or company signs and stuff. Also, or cutting out the letters and then gluing them to an actual backboard, an actual backboard design, making a nice sign or whatever, or doing something like we did with the model in the pocket cut and the prism cut letters to create that really nice office sign. So there's a lot of different ways, to do it. Crystal, I know you're not a fan of the prism cut, but I'm glad I did good. All right, everybody. It looks like I answered all the questions. Anna, I'm going to give you just a few minutes, Anna, if you're still with me. Is there sing? Were you asking me to sing, or was that, or did you have another question that I did not understand correctly? So, Anna, if you're still there, go ahead and ask that question. And then if I don't see you pop up in the next few minutes, we're going to say goodbye. But I'm going to, the cool thing about this is I can run to the kitchen real quick if I want to and grab a bite to eat. I could go play on the piano, Tippy, and play you a song or something. I love my green screen. That's a new addition to Digital Woodcarver, the green screen background. Having a little fun with it. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm trying to just clean up the look, and maybe this will be distracting, and the content won't seem so boring. All right, everybody. It looks like Anna is not asking a question. I think I give her enough time. Okay. Until next time, thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. And Anna, if you do ask the question, and if it's something I can answer, I'll answer in the comments section. Have a great night, everybody.